Hello there. My name is Dr. Chiron Graves, and this here is my pet ball python, Kyrie. I'm a professor, a biology professor at Eastern Michigan University, where I use Kyrie and some of my other pet ball pythons to teach about some key ideas in genetics. In particular, I teach these future teachers about the variation of traits and the inheritance of those said traits. And I focus specifically on color, their variation in their color and pattern. Believe it or not, there are a lot of traits that ball pythons have in common with us humans when it comes to skin color or pigmentation. In this video, I'm going to highlight a few of these examples of color and pattern variations in ball pythons that are caused by some of the same, Kyrie's got me locked up here. Some of the same genes that lead to variations in skin colors in humans. So without further ado, let's jump in. Okay, let's start by identifying some of the characteristics of the wild-type phenotype in ball pythons. So let's note Kyrie's brown and black colors. The browns here, and then the blacks and the stripes and bands and spots we see kind of scattered around that make up his pattern. Those colors are due to the expression of melanin, and there are specialized cells that ball pythons have called melanophores that are responsible for making melanin. In order for the melanophores to make melanin, they need what's a protein or an enzyme, which is called tyrosinase. And they can't make melanin without tyrosinase. And they turn, these melanophores turn to a gene called the TYR gene in order to make tyrosinase, and they use tyrosinase to make melanin. This is the same situation in humans, where our cells that make melanin are called melanocytes, and melanocytes rely on tyrosinase, just like ball pythons, melanophores rely on tyrosinase to make melanin. And the TYR gene is the gene that provides instructions for melanocytes in us and melanophores in ball pythons to make tyrosinase. In ball pythons, where you have the brown and then you have the black patterns, the black stripes, the black dots, the black bands, and all of that is due to what we believe is the distribution of these melanophores throughout the ball python's body. And so the thinking is in the areas that are darker in pigmentation, you have a high density of melanophores in these areas, and then the density of melanophores in here, in these brown areas, is less. The gene responsible for that is a gene called the MC1R gene. And that gene provides instructions for a protein called the MC1R, or melanocortin-1 receptor. The melanocytes in us, the melanophores in ball pythons, use this receptor as a way to communicate with other cells and with their environment on what to do, where to go, and things of that nature. And so that MC1R protein receptor is really important for determining the distribution of melanocytes or melanophores throughout Kyrie and other ball pythons' bodies. Now, what happens if a ball python isn't able to make tyrosinase, hence making melanin? Or what if the ball python's melanophores lose their ability to go to the places they're designated to go? Or in other words, if they lose the ability to make MC1R, or that ability to make MC1R is in some way altered or diminished. So let's talk about that next. This is Ahsoka. Now, one of the first things you may notice about Ahsoka is she doesn't have any black or brown color. She still has the banding patterns, you know, the striping and the banding. We see it there, but it's like really light yellow in the bands where the black would have been if this were Kyrie. And we see like these deep yellows. Hello! These deep yellows, deep rich yellows in the areas that were brown for Kyrie. So just like in Kyrie, in these areas, you have more melanophores and then less melanophores here. Their distribution isn't different. It's just that their ability to produce or synthesize melanin is different. And that is due to the fact that Ahsoka has a mutation in her TYR gene that prevents her from being able to make tyrosinase. That mutation in her TYR gene results in her having an albino phenotype. And this is similar in humans, where humans with the most severe form of albinism have a mutation in their TYR gene that prevents them from being able to make melanin at any point in their life. One more thing that I want to point out is that she has these red eyes, and the red eyes are due to the fact that, again, her melanocytes, or her melanophores, are not able to make melanin. And so we see her red eyes because there's no pigment in the cells in the melanophores in her eyes. This is Toussaint. And Toussaint is a type of albino phenotype as well. But the thing that you notice that's different is that there are these little lavender-ish patterns in the places where black would normally be on Kyrie, or where the light yellow is on Ahsoka. And that is because Toussaint actually has a different type of mutation in the same TYR gene. So the mutation that he has in his TYR gene is such that there is a diminished and delayed production of tyrosinase. So actually, when Toussaint was first born, he actually looked like more kind of like Ahsoka's phenotype, where there was no lavender here to speak of. The lavender that we see here in the patterns were basically white. But once he was about 2 months old, they slowly, these patterns and spots and so forth slowly started turning into a white color. And again, that is due to the fact that that mutation in the same gene, the TYR gene, is one that leads to a delayed and diminished production of tyrosinase. And so we have less tyrosinase, hence less melanin in these spaces. Makes, again, for a beautiful phenotype. We're calling it, this is called the Candino phenotype. He does not want to get his head out. I want you to see his eyes. Tucson, come on, man. There we go. And you can see his eyes are more of a ruby red color because that reflects the fact that there's a little bit of melanin being produced by his melanophores, but not as much as in the case of Kyrie. So there we go. Now he's starting to come out. So two beautiful examples of what happens when the TYR gene is mutated, two different mutations. And this is the same in humans as well. There are humans that have a form of albinism where they don't produce melanin at the start or at birth, but over the course of their development, they start to be able to produce small amounts of melanin. And again, that's because of this particular mutation in their TYR gene. This is Bingo, and Bingo has what breeders call the Clown Phenotype. Now, the things that I will point out in his phenotype is the fact that this striping on the back is quite different from what you may recall seeing with Kyrie, not only in its appearance, but also its color. So instead of that black that we recall seeing in the stripe on the back and in these bands on the side, it is more of a brown, a darkish brown. And those areas on Kyrie that used to be, or the areas on Kyrie that were dark brown are now more kind of like a tan brown on Bingo. The other thing is the striping down on the sides looks more like teardrops. And so overall, Bingo's pattern looks different, but his color also looks different. I'll also show you his head if he can cooperate with us. There we go. He has a notable difference in his head pattern as well. And again, that is due to a mutation in the MC1R gene, which hampers the melanophores' ability to migrate in that controlled fashion or that predetermined fashion that we saw in the wild type. So what you get is a change in the pattern, a change in the distribution of melanocytes and melanophores in certain areas, and as a result, a difference in the colors that we see in both the banding and in the patches of skin. In humans, mutations in the MC1R gene lead to altered functions in the MC1R protein, and that results in individuals who have fair skin and also red hair. So this is Rhea. Rhea has what's called the Axanthic Phenotype, and Axanthic means lacking yellow. And as Rhea's phenotype name suggests, Axanthic suggests, Rhea has lost or does not have the ability to produce the yellow pigments. And she also has more of a grayish coloration. She still has the black in her stripes, in her bands, in her spots. And that's because she can, her melanophores can still make melanin. But instead of the browns that we saw here with Kyrie, or even to a certain extent, Bingo, even though they were less brown, because Rhea can't, her xanthophores can't make yellow, we don't get that brown color that we saw in the other ball pythons. This is due to a mutation in a gene called the GCH2 gene. Humans have this gene, but it's unclear what role that gene plays in producing a protein that has a particular defined function in humans. In ball pythons, it provides instructions for a GTP cyclohydrolase 2 protein, if I'm remembering that correctly. And that protein essentially has a role in the ultimate development of the yellow pigment, or the carotenoid, and also the pteridine, which is like the red pigment that's produced in those xanthophores, the pigment cells that are responsible for those colors. We get this nice variation, beautiful variation in color that you get when there is no yellow being produced by the xanthophores. So migration is still the same, so we still get the patterns. More of the melanocytes in these areas, or melanophores in these areas than in these areas. More of the xanthophores in these areas than in these areas. But the xanthophores are not able to make the yellow, so we don't get the brown. And I think that's a good place to stop this video. So just to recap, we talked about variations in color and pattern, and I shared examples of ball pythons that have mutations in genes, some of which are the same genes in humans that cause the same types of variations in skin color. And then, of course, this one example where there isn't a human equivalent, but it's still cool nonetheless. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to hit the like button. If you like this video and you'd like to see more videos like this, go ahead and subscribe, and also hit the notification icon so you're notified when those new videos do come out. Hope you learned a lot from this video, and until next time, have a great day. So I forgot to mention, I've included a bunch of links or links to a bunch of resources in the description to this video. So be sure to check it out. I've got links to research articles that talk about the mutations that lead to these traits that I talked about in this video. I've also included some links to some genetic sites that talk about the mutations in humans. And lastly, some links that talk more about the traits, the ball python traits from a ball python perspective. So be sure to check out the description where you'll find those links and you can nerd out. All right, thanks for watching.